What's up, so family? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, welcome to Soul Family Oracle, and if you're returning, as always, thank you so much for the energy. Today's recording is going to be a bit different, as this is not exactly a download. This is going to be from various insights that I have, and it's inspired by a post I made on the thumbnails, and how sometimes some people say, why are the thumbnails a certain color because the message resonates with them, but they are not that color, or why is it those because the ancestors were not originally that color, and this and that. And sometimes it's why is it masculine in front of the feminine because the masculine, it's patriarchy and this and and when I thought of doing this recording, the message that came to me was something I saw on Instagram, and it was saying there's fire in you, like there's fire within you that you choose whether to burn with or to enlighten with. And that is what inspired me to make the recording, so that I would be able to explain the various insights, because I feel like this is a sensitive subject also. And so even though I may have my own reservations and my own perspective based on the understanding and the knowing I have, I'm still respectful of others' emotions and feelings concerning this topic, because I know it can be triggering. And so I'm hoping that after this video, I'm able to ease some of you of how you feel about the different races and the different sexes, in terms of like the experiences you've had from the past, and not just the past as in the past, this lifetime's past. I'm talking about past lifetimes also, right? And then when you speak of some of those things that are triggering, you think of slavery, you think of patriarchy, you think of religion, you think of oppression, you think of the westernization of things, you think of spirituality, a whole lot. And I feel like a lot of people, especially some of the people that made me want to do this video, that commented under the post I made, I could sense that feeling of just being emotionally tied to the energy, to the feeling that the energy brought, right? So in this case, it would be either the feeling of sadness or anger. Now, I don't want to get too much into that part. So when it comes to understanding where we really stand in terms of races, skin color, gender, male, masculine, transgender, bi, homo, it's not just about this physical reality or this lifetime. The identities that we carry in this lifetime have a lot to do with past life and also past life karma. And so the various identities that we carry now play a role in the ascension that we are supposed to experience, plays a role in our soul's evolvement. And our soul doesn't evolve at one place. Our soul doesn't evolve in one lifetime or in one reincarnation. Our soul evolves from, in different lifetimes and different incarnations, right? And that's why some are considered very old souls, because their soul has lived so many lives. Now, when it comes to the old soul, there was one comment that says something about the ancients were black. No, the ancients were not black. The reason why this person, you might have this strong knowing of the ancients were black, is because of your soul's age. Now, when we speak of souls, some people are young souls and some people are old souls. And some people are ancient souls. We speak of old souls and people automatically assume that, oh, that means like, very old, very, very old, like way, 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 way back, like you reincarnated thousands and thousands of years. Yes, that's true. And then you have souls that are what? Ancient. These are souls that are not even from this planet. And you speak of old souls, and there are souls that are also old souls that are not from this planet, but also souls that are old souls but are from this planet. And so when you look at even like the knowings that we have as a soul, like how do I explain this? Who we are, who our soul is, right? Our soul's identity. Our soul's identity differs also so much based on where we're coming from, what period we're coming from, or how long our soul has been around. Okay. All right. So now back to the whole color, gender thing. When it comes to understanding the identities that we carry in this lifetime that we're in the current lifetime, there is a need to understand that, again, as part of what our soul needs to evolve and to ascend in this lifetime to reach a higher level, whether to reincarnate again or whether to continue a purpose or whether to, go back to a certain realm, for whatever it is, it requires a certain part of us that requires work, or a certain part of us that hasn't been fully evolved or fully developed. And usually, or how it is that this part that is underdeveloped is a part that is what derived from the past life. And so if you look at your traits right now and the things that you would consider shortcomings or maybe flaws or triggers, right? Or traumas, even. A lot of them are rooted in past life energies. A lot of them are rooted in past life karma that is needing to be released in this lifetime. And that's how you can even meet somebody that changes your life totally, and they are somebody that you were connected to in the past life, right? Now, when you understand this, we can go to the next point, which is that to allow for our soul to ascend, to allow for our soul to go through the tribulation that it needs to ascend. And mind you, a tribulation is a catalyst, right? Not a catalyst really. A catalyst happens and then I guess a tribulation happens. But a tribulation is like a series of tests and trials that we go through in order to reach a certain level or to reach a certain higher stage or higher state, right? To reach a certain achievement. Okay, so the soul's tribulation is going to be based on the things that are going to cause enough friction to allow enough chaos, the things that are going to be the catalyst to bring about that tribulation or to allow that tribulation to happen. You understand? And so picking from the past life, this is where now the second part I'm speaking of comes in. Or I don't know if it's the third part right now, but you get me. So based on who you were in your past life, what your tribulation might be in this lifetime, and the past life doesn't necessarily have to mean your immediate past life, like just the last lifetime you had before you reincarnated into this one. It can be past lives from thousands of years ago. If you haven't healed that in multiple lifetimes, it will carry on and come through in different lifetimes based on where it's relevant for it to come through, right? So a lot of people in their past lives, the various things that they did that they still weren't able to clear out or pay off those karmic debt or release has followed or reoccurred in different lifetimes, in different energies, in different ways. And a lot of people that are living in a certain identity right now are living contradictory to who they used to be in order for them to be able to ascend. And these contradictory identities or energies are meant to be like some kind of accelerators for their growth, right? Because again, remember, they're supposed to go through the tribulation. So it's like, it makes things harder, but that's because the harder the tribulations are, it's like the higher the achievement, or the bigger the enlightenment, something of the sort, or the better it is for the ascension process, right? Okay. So for some people that, for instance, are, let's say, female right now, right? They are women, feminine in this lifetime right now, in this reality, are not, wait, hold on, doesn't mean they are originally, or that they were originally feminine in the past life, or have always been feminine. Some people are what? People that have reincarnated as feminine but were masculine in the past life, right? Okay. Now, as feminines, we all don't have the same story as women, but we can say as women, there are common things or common themes that we would consider as difficulties that women face, or things that women face, right? However, there are some women that are in certain positions that you would consider to be worse than others. Like when you look at countries that oppress women, and countries that, suppress women's, basically oppress women. Like, pardon me to say, and again, I say this with due respect for everybody's feelings, because again, some of these things are quite, I think, touchy subjects. Yeah. So when you look at, for instance, some Arab countries, and how the kind of conditions and harsh policies that women live under, right? And so let's say you are feminine, and then you are in one of these Arab countries where, like, for instance, if you say the wrong thing to your husband, you can even get stoned. You are not allowed to, have an education. You are not allowed to, have your own business. Or you are giving out to be married at a very young age, and you are meant to be like a housewife and just make children, and on top of that, you are suppressed, and you are not allowed to be yourself and all that. Somebody in this condition as a woman might say, oh, the world hates women, we need to, be this thing against men, and F men, and this, and women that, and the patriarchy has made things this way, and so we need to be all about women, right? But what you might not realize is the reason why you are in that exact situation, in a situation where, as a woman, you live in a very difficult place, in a very difficult time, is because in the past life, you may have been a masculine who was what? Oppressing other women, oppressing women. You may have been a masculine that, was abusive to women. You may have been a masculine that looked down on women. And so if you crossed a certain threshold in that energy and created a karmic debt, as part of that karmic debt, you can come back into this lifetime as a feminine, but not just as a feminine in any other part of the world, or in a place like, let's say, for instance, the US, where certain things are very easily accessed for women, and women have certain freedoms and certain freedoms. And then you end up in a place like, one of those places where it's like really strict. You can't show your face, you can't even speak to other, genders. You can't do certain things in public. You can't, have an education as a woman. You can't speak up to your husband. A lot of different things where you are oppressed, so that you can experience how it feels like to be a woman who is what? Being oppressed. And then your spirit can go through that as a tribulation. And once you are able to go through that tribulation and what? Revive or maintain the light, you ascend. You ascend as light. And that light you ascend as is a light that you have to cultivate over a period of time to reach a certain point where it's like fullness and you ascend. And there are different ascensions that we go through, other ascensions we go through where, that leads up to bigger ascensions. And then there's another ascension that's like a very high ascension. I can't remember the name, but they used to practice it in the ancient Buddhist temples where they would stay in a state of meditation till eternity if that's what it required. But the intention was to reach the highest form of light, of purity, of oneness, stillness, connectedness, with source. And they basically kind of like shrink and become light, or like disappear and become light, something of the sort. You can look this up. There's been documentaries on it, of monks that went into meditation, sat in meditation for hundreds of years, and basically kind of like became light and ascended. Right. So light, I was talking about ascension. So that light part is the part where you are able to release it and be like, okay, I can understand how this group of people have oppressed me and my kind, or people that are like me. However, I can't hold it against all of them because they are a shell of another thing, of like something else much bigger, just like I am. And forgive and release. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. And that's what I was saying, like some of these things are quite sensitive and triggering, and I'm not trying to even like go into everything. I don't want to really use certain things as an example. And so in this lifetime, as you've come as like a feminine, in a space where you are being oppressed, it would be your soul's trial to what? First, understand your situation. Release the energy of resentment that is built up from the treatment and stuff that you received. And then allow yourself to live from a different energy. And the living from a different energy might not always be, it won't be the easiest part, because that would mean being able to live amongst some of those people that you consider as your oppressors, right? And not be triggered by it, and be able to go about your day and do what you need to do without being triggered about it, right? Now, another example is with the races: black, white, green, blue, whatever. And yeah, the ancients were not black. Some of the ancients were actually blue, and green. So when you talk about racism, right? Sometimes when I read certain comments, I don't want to be sarcastic, but it's funny because like a lot of the people that go on about whether black or white are actually the very people that are not in their original form. Like their original form, like they are not in their original form. And this is because they were in a very low vibrational state when they were in the other form. And so it's like, for instance, you were somebody that was, in the past life, you may have been originally white, right? But you were, involved with the slave trade and did some really horrible things. And as part of your the karmic debt you have to clear, you come back, in another lifetime as a black person. and then you come as a black person and then go through the effects of the after effects of slave trade. So not even the actual slave trade, but basically you experience hardship and all those things and horrible things and discrimination and all those things because of the color of your skin. And over time you become resentful. And because you became resentful and weren't able to release that energy because you didn't know it was part of a past life karmic debt, you reincarnate back again as a black person to live in hardship, to experience discrimination. So you can what? Again, go through tribulations to allow you to ascend, become lighter, to release the energy. It's like carrying something and releasing it. When you release it, you become lighter. And now you're able to move forward faster. Just like that. And so you are not able to release it, and then you reincarnate back again as a black person living in difficult situations. And that continues and continues and continues. And then now let's say we're in this time 2025 and you're on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, going on about certain things, to do with racism and the other side. Not even knowing that you are not even originally a black person. Not even understanding that you are not originally a black person. Because a lot of the people that have evolved from that energy are the very ones that are not originally the color that they are in right now. And the ones that are actually the original blacks or original white or have any kind of animosity towards the other, but have been able to ascend from it and are living from like a space of being light and being able to like coexist without being triggered or without scheming or without basically wanting to, whether look down or undermine the other or, basically target the other for whatever reason. Those are the ones that they might not be living the best lives, but their lives don't feel as burdened. Their lives don't feel as burdened. Why? Because again, it's like carrying something and then eventually releasing it. When you release it, you become lighter. And like I was saying, you ascend as light. 2244 on the timer. It's the first time I'm catching the time. And it's 255 also on the time, 2055. You ascend as light. And so, and then vice versa. You may have been a black person, and then you were very cruel to white people in a lifetime. You did really some really horrible things. And, that's the main thing. It's not about the person's color. It's about the person's heart. It's about the person's spirit, their soul. There are some really evil black people as there are evil white people. And then there are some really loving, beautiful, kind, amazing, just pure, beautiful souls that are black people as there are white people also. Same way there are some women that have, are not correct, are not right. Just like how there are some men that are not correct and some men that are not right. And so, for instance, when you look at patriarchy, I feel like patriarchy is much more similar to Christianity, where some of the things or in some of the ways in which certain men act is because of how they themselves were brought up. It's not something that they develop themselves, like just from within them. It's something that they decided to become. It's like all they know. 24 on the timer. And so these men, or like these men right now of this time, for instance, would need divine feminines to be able to understand themselves better, to be able to like guide them to understand the importance of the matriarch, to understand the importance of the divine feminine's role, to understand the divine masculine's role. And so, for instance, this what feminist movement, which is also another trap, to bring division, divide and conquer, and to basically boost certain things and help some people to gain, is another thing that continues to separate or widen the gap between the masculine and the feminine. And I say the masculine and the feminine because the divine masculine and the divine feminine are slowly finding their way back to each other. The divine feminine and the divine masculine are slowly finding their way back to each other. And so it's those that are not fully walking in their divinity or don't or have chose to not walk in their divinity are the ones that are on the outside. And so it's just like I was saying with the energies. When you do the healing, you begin to understand that it's bigger than that. And also when your soul has ascended and evolved for so long, so many times, you understand that you are it's beyond black and white. It's like those are like there's so many other colors that came before that, and it's like if we had to speak of all those different colors and some of the things that have been done, but then again, like I was saying, the different souls, because some of these ancients I'm talking about are also, and some of these things I'm talking about have to do with other planets. So I understand if you don't resonate with other planets because your soul is as young as Earth. But some souls are as old as other planets. Some souls are as old as Nibiru. And I don't know if, I'm not saying that's me, but I don't know why. But that's what came through, so yeah. I don't know if you guys just heard that. So it's like, again, when you look at, or when you begin to understand karmic depth, and you begin to understand past life karma, and you begin to understand how it impacts the present, and how the things that we don't heal from become the thing that becomes we reincarnate to every lifetime until we break that cycle. And then when we don't break that cycle, it becomes like, it creates channels, like web links to others, like, generations. Our children, pick up, those same things because we teach them the things that we believe, unless they themselves become the generational curse breakers, like how some of us have become the generational curse breakers right now. So, as a matter of fact, for some of you, you are needing to become the generational curse breaker. And I know a lot of people in this collective have become the generational curse breakers and have broken certain curses that has to do with ancestors that were living in resentment, ancestors that were still spirits, like entrancled spirits. You understand? That were still kind of like feeding off of the anger that they left behind. And so it's like they had that anger within them and they were feeding off of it. And again, it's not to say that, how do I say it? It's not to say that, for instance, not to stand up for your right as a woman, or not to, stand up against bullying, against racism and all those things. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, there's a need to understand that if you decide to live your life with this idea that there's a group of people that you have a certain animosity with, automatically because of a situation that happened to a group of people or a collective of people, you will be wrong, because the story is not the same for everyone. So even the group of people that you are claiming on and trying to, like, let's say, fight for, you have no idea who it is. It's like not all of them are even part of the people that you think you are fighting for, because they have their own individual fight and it's not all connected. It's not all connected. The fight that you are fighting is connected with somebody else that you might not even think it's like that's who it's connected to, just because they are a different skin color. And that's another thing also. Like interracial marriages, it's another thing that was coming through with a download I was receiving a while back, about how certain people, their challenge is interracial marriages. Their tribulation in life is interracial marriages, because their divine counterpart has reincarnated as a different race. And so imagine being imagine being a racist, right? Imagine being a racist and your divine counterpart comes as a different race than you are. No, just imagine that. Imagine being a racist, right? And your divine counterpart comes as a different race. What happens then? What happens then? And and let's say, I mean, yes, you can be unsure. You can say maybe it's not of God. Let's say, like, let's say you're sure, like you're 100% sure you've received all the confirmations. Like, let's say God has given you dreams, like you've heard voice, you've asked for specific confirmations and you got all the confirmations. Are you going to be like, no, I won't, I can't? Or are you going to I mean, I don't know. But yeah. So I really hope I have achieved the intention I had in mind, the intention I had for this recording. And this is not to change anybody's mind. This is not to convince anybody otherwise of what they believe. This is just to share insights so that you can just decide if the insights mean anything to you, or if it brings you any form of clarity or understanding. And I feel like this is something I'm going to do multiple videos on later. But yeah, as always, please listen with discernment. Take only what resonates and leave what doesn't. And if the message resonates with you, please hit the like button, share, subscribe, comment to help us reach even more of our soul tribe. Have a blessed evening, guys.